Hey, liberty-loving friends. So I just wanted to share with you some thoughts here relative to the whole idea of liberty and something I've come to, so a realization that I've come to maybe just recently. For many years, my thinking was defined by an assumption. I had this assumption going on, and the assumption was that somehow people who became believers, because in the Christian world we believe that you can come from any background. You could have been Satanist, could have been atheist, could have been communist, could have been a jihadi, could have been anyone. And you could, if you were sincere, you could come, turn from your ways, and embrace the faith and right your ways. Find the right path. Begin to follow the Bible. Begin to live out the tenets of the faith and so forth and so on. So we have this thing going on. It's a big assumption, actually, because a lot of people don't really experience that. They've never really had a true conversion, so to say. They bring a lot of the assumptions into their faith. They integrate them. They mix them with what they call Christianity, and then they begin to defend it and proliferate it. So that's a big problem. And part of the problem is that I was assuming for many years that if someone is a Christian, they go to church, they read the Bible, they go through all these motions, right? That they understand liberty. I was just very naive. I didn't understand. And then I began to realize how many Christians, those who go to church, now let me just say this, how many pastors, preachers, teachers, theologians, great names even great names, okay? They don't get liberty. They just don't. That's right. I begin to understand how many people don't understand liberty. First of all, by the lack of adequate reaction in the Christian world to the persecution of Christians. Every year, around 100,000 Christians are getting butchered, killed, mostly by Muslims. 90% of the victims are by Muslims. And this could stop. The number of these victims could be half. It could be almost eliminated very quickly if believers took this seriously and stood up for their brothers and sisters around the world and demanded that we implement certain foreign policy measures to stand up for religious freedom. But that's not being done because we the people just don't understand liberty. In fact, what I begin to hear by Christians is stuff like, oh, well, persecution makes us stronger. We really need to get persecuted and get, it really makes our faith more pure. Really? Well, how is it that you're not taking a plane to Sudan and starting a church there? Instead, you're starting a church in the suburbs. Interesting. Why? Go ahead and start a church in Somalia. It's good for the faith. It will purge you. It will make you stronger. Baloney. This is all baloney. It's hypocrisy. It's cowardice. And so I really begin to be disturbed by this hypocrisy and this lack of courage and lack of seriousness. Just hypocrisy in the sense that people say one thing, but they don't really do it. But then I begin to realize there's a deeper problem here, that the majority of Christians just don't really understand the most fundamental principles of liberty as it pertains to a functional society based on the Judeo-Christian values. Most believers don't distinguish between their faith and civics. They don't understand that, going to church, having your faith, all this spiritual life is one thing, but civics is another. It's another domain. You can be a great believer, but you can be a very lousy citizen. And pastors are at the forefront of this problem. They don't get civics as well. They're a lousy civic. They're lousy citizens as well. They don't do what they have to do. They don't stand up for what's right in society. They're cowards too. Lazy and cowards. That's the two main reasons. No effort, which means lazy, and no courage, which means they're cowards. They're afraid of losing members. They're afraid of their reputation, and on and on and on, which is what our enemies take advantage of. They take advantage of our ignorance. They take advantage of our laziness, and they take advantage of our cowardice. Those are the three main reasons Christian churches are paralyzed, ineffective, and useless in this current cultural war, and why we don't have a pushback like we should, and why we're losing on so many levels. Okay? I assumed for so many years that Christians understand liberty, that they understand the principles of liberty, that they believe in the Constitution, that they understand how priceless that document is and what the founding fathers really achieved in a brutal and savage and barbaric world. They took the moral code of Moses, basically, and they turned it into a civic code. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all the founding documents of the founders of the United States are basically the civic version of the Judeo-Christian moral code, which basically stands on the fact that God is the creator of man, that man is not a mere chance. God is the creator of man, therefore man is greater than government. Therefore we create government for self-regulation, but that self-regulatory and self-governance tool could never and should never be allowed to become tyrannical, and the people that use it should never be allowed to become tyrants. It's that simple. Yet so many pastors, church leaders, theologians, media personality, I can go on and on and on and on, just don't get it. And maybe it was necessary by God's design for me to be born in a communist country, to be suffocated for so many years, to have become a pastor in a post-communist country, to have been shut down by the government, to have suffered for many years in so many different ways, physically threatened, interrogated, deprived of my property, harassed. Yeah, I've experienced all those things. Maybe I had to experience them to begin to appreciate liberty and to become a student of history, because I wanted to know, how does this work? And so basically what I've realized is that the majority of Christians today are ignorant of history. They don't dig deeper. They don't know their own faith. They don't care to know the Bible on a too deep of a level. This whole thing begins with the pastors and the churches and the leaders. They're lazy. They're cowards. They are the ones who are basically setting the bar so low that it's tragic. It's just tragic. And so I am really excited, actually, to be able to connect with liberty-minded friends here on this despicable social network. And if I gain 5 friends out of this and connect, I will be very grateful. Now, we could use Parler, we could use Gab, we could use Telegram, we could use all these tools. But at the end of the day, if you're the kind of person who wants to connect with like-minded individuals and then build communities from the ground up that help restore America, this is how we do it. We find each other. We begin to foster in each other a sense of community. But I'm telling you, if the one common denominator is loving God, appreciating His truth, and cherishing freedom and liberty to a point of being ready to give your life, because really that's what loyalty means and allegiance really means, is being willing to give your life. What are you willing to give your life for? Are you willing to give your life for your faith? Are you willing to give your life for your family, to live or to die if necessary? Are you willing to give your life for liberty? And that's what defines, to me, people that are real, that are true, that are genuine, that are authentic. And these are the kind of people I want to be part of the process going forward, because going forward, we're going to have some rough times. Hopefully the political process goes in the right direction. But how can you know? How can you trust that? You can't. After COVID and this whole debacle, how can you trust anything? You can't. So you have to prepare for the worst. And the way we prepare for the worst, first of all, is we find each other. And the way we find each other is like, I could be friends with atheists even if they cherish liberty. So, this is what brings you and I together. We must be free. Liberty is essential to life. There is no life without liberty. You can't pursue happiness. You can't pursue your own path without the liberty. You must have life. That's why we're pro-life. You must have liberty because it's the only way to live life, the life that God gave us. And everyone must be free to pursue their own vision of life, version of life, whatever. But we must guard and protect that liberty. Otherwise, life is not really worth living, is it?